alive.
All right, so high in the intertidal, we have a Fucus species called Fucus spiralis. And Fucus spiralis is a beautiful algae. It attaches to the rocks by means of this holdfast, which you can see here. So there's no root. It just attaches to the rock wherever it can find a suitable substrate. So again, competition for space, for primary space on the rock is important for these organisms. And at low tide in the summer, you can see that this is a really stressful environment for these organisms. They're dry, they're like crispy, they're so dry, and they're just waiting for the tide to come back in. So this is affecting their ability to photosynthesize. And so they have less energy for making for growth and reproduction if they're high in the intertidal. So we should just be like impressed with these organisms' ability to live high in the intertidal. They live just below the calothrix zone. So they're the first species of algae. So the high tide comes up to here. They only get submerged for a short period of time, twice a day in Maine. And when the tide comes in, right now they're laying on the rocks, you can see, but when the tide comes in, they float up into the water column. So they have a holdfast, they have a stipe, and then they have these fronds. And on the end of the fronds, when it's their season to reproduce, they have these gamete-filled sacs on the end of their fronds that make them more buoyant. And right now you can see that a lot of them, their gametes sacs are filling. These are really cool, and that what's indicative of this species is where let me find a good example. When the two halves come together, do you see there's a little seam along the halfway point? And that's one of the field signs for identifying this species. So anyway, when the tide comes in and they're floating up into the water column and it's the right season, they release their gametes up into the water column on an incoming tide. And that's important because all of the gametes from this species will then be mixed against the rocks, and it increases the chance of fertilization. And then these species, this algae, has a planktonic phase. So this is another example of an animal, an organism that has a plankton phase and a benthic phase. So it is a phytoplankton that's also a meroplankton, just to help you remember. And then when the algae is ready to settle on our rocks, it comes in an incoming tide, it finds a suitable location, it finds some bare rock that's available, and it settles, and it starts making a holdfast, and it grows from there.
What are the other ways we can tell this species of Fucus apart from the other two species that we have?
That's a good one. Fucus spiralis, it has a wave. That's a good question. It has a twist or a wave in its fronds. Thank you for asking that. Part of the problem in Maine too is that we have another species of Fucus, Fucus vesiculosus, that it can hybridize with, which can cause some confusion, but that's okay. That's life. Anyway, Fucus spiralis, it's beautiful, high intertidal rockweed, and yeah.